Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
We're going to continue talking about horses today, but more specifically, we're going to be talking about the relationship between horses and humans, and we'll talk about the history of that relationship as well. And we began to talk about that relationship last time, didn't we?
We did. We talked about the history of the horse, you could say. We started out by describing how beautiful they are. They're very tall. They're majestic. They're very muscular. These are strong, strong animals. And it's true. Tom said if you stand by them, you realize how tall they are. They are very, very tall. And in order to even get on the horse, it takes quite a bit to even throw your leg over the side of the horse. If you have a chance, I recommend everybody try riding a horse at least one time in their lives because it's kind of fun. It's very, very different, and you're so high once you get on their back. Well, we learned throughout history they've had different roles. They were originally hunted for meat. Their meat has a lot of iron and protein in it, which is really healthy. And then it changed around 3500 BC. That's when horses were first tamed or domesticated. That's another word for domesticated, to tame a horse. Take a wild animal and get it used to being around humans, whether as a pet or as a work animal. And they also discovered they were very, very fast and they could run for a long time and not get tired. So people started using them in transportation. And then they found endless uses for horses in fields. They could help the farmer farm. They could help herd sheep and cattle. They were used in war. Commerce just means they were used in buying things. Buying and selling is commerce. And then, of course, they were used for fun. What are we going to talk about today, though, Tom?
We're going to talk about the fact that horses require a lot of maintenance. So if you are thinking about getting a horse and having it as a pet, be warned because it's going to be a lot of work and you're going to have a lot of money and you'll have to have a place in the countryside to keep that horse. So think again if you're thinking of raising a horse, but it is possible. I do know some people back in my hometown that have raised horses all their lives, but of course they live in the country and they have that advantage. But let's continue to talk about horses and humans in today's lesson. So let's get to it. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson right now. Being such loyal helpers of humans, horses have made their worth clear. In return, though, these large animals need extensive care. Such labor-intensive maintenance has given rise to a number of horse-related occupations, including groom, farrier, and trainer. A horse groom is responsible for daily care. They not only brush and clean horses, but feed them, clean out stalls, maintain riding gear, and do basic first aid. This job involves in-depth horse knowledge and can be very physically demanding. It offers further career opportunities, though. Many grooms go on to manage stables or become breeders or veterinary assistants. Another key horse care job is farrier. Farriers look after horses' feet, so it's vital that they have a complete understanding of horse anatomy, in addition to skill in crafting horseshoes. Horses are heavy, and their weight can cause problems that lead to pain and lameness. Farriers learn to prevent and treat these issues through techniques like making specialized shoes or trimming horses' hooves to relieve pressure. Of course, horses still do a variety of tasks, and this is where a horse trainer comes in. Trainers often specialize in equestrian sports, like show jumping and rodeo riding. However, they also train horses and riders for police work or other jobs. When trainers work with inexperienced or abused horses, there is a risk of being kicked or bitten, so they must have patience and awareness. Though horses began as hunted and exploited animals, today we recognize their immense value to human society. The next time you meet a horse, you might find yourself in awe of not just its beauty, but also its amazing history.
Okay, let's dive in, guys. It's day 2 of Horses and Humans, Past and Present. Being such loyal helpers of humans, horses have made their worth clear. They're very valuable because they can help us. In return, though, these large animals, and they're very big, as we've said, they need extensive care. Yeah, they are very labor-intensive. Every day you have to feed them. You have to make sure the hay that's in the stable is clean. You know, you have to do a lot of things for the horse. You have to groom them. You have to comb their hair. You know, you have to brush them. It's not really combing. We say brush. But there's a lot of work to do with the horses, and they need our help. But they're also very loyal helpers of humans.
That reminds me, I think in the past it was kind of popular for people to use horse shampoo for their own hair.
Really?
Yeah, I heard about that many years ago. I'm not sure if that's a smart thing to do, but
why?
I don't know. I guess it has special chemicals in there that will make your hair nice and puffy or something. Maybe that's why they do that with horses, because, of course, horses are going to be in horse shows, so they need to look their best. So maybe that horse hair shampoo is really special or something. But again, we're talking about the value of horses. They're loyal helpers of humans, but they have made their worth clear. They've let us know that they're valuable, but as you said, they need extensive care, such as labor-intensive maintenance, and that has given rise to a number of horse-related occupations, including groom, farrier, and trainer, which we'll explain one by one here. So if something's labor-intensive, it requires a lot of work, physical work, like farming is labor-intensive, or sometimes working in factories can be labor-intensive. They don't use robotics or things like that. The people have to be there all day doing the same thing over and over. That is labor-intensive, and it's kind of true of horses. They require lots and lots of physical care and maintenance. If you don't have the maintenance, of course, they'll start to go bad. Their hair will start to get tangled. They'll get dirty. Their hooves will start to fall apart and stuff like that. So you've got to have these specialized people to take care of those horses, and these are some examples of horse-related occupations. An occupation is just a job or a career.
So we've got the groom, and we're going to be defining these more within the article, but a groom is someone who feeds and takes care of the horse. Also, the groom is responsible for brushing them. That's a big part of taking care of a horse. And their stall is where they live, so they have to clean those out. A farrier, and it's kind of a weird word. I was telling Tom before we started, it looks like you want to pronounce it as Farrier, but you don't. It's farrier. The farrier is someone who takes care of the hooves on their feet. Hooves is also pronounced, singular is hoof or hoof. Usually if it's singular, it's always hoof. But plural can be hooves or hooves. You can pick what you want. And then there's also the horse trainer. Usually if you have a horse trainer, they're competing in some sort of competition, whether it's horse racing or even the equestrian competitions that they have. They have horse trainers.
Okay, so those are 3 possible occupations. There may be more, but if you're still young and still kind of figuring out what you want to do with your life, these are 3 things you might want to consider. I don't think there are lots of job opportunities for these here in Taiwan.
No.
I haven't really seen a lot of horses, so yeah, don't take this idea too seriously. But in any case, here in the next paragraph, it says, a horse groom is responsible for daily care. And you touched on this a couple of seconds ago about what a groom is supposed to do. They're responsible for the daily care of the horse. They not only brush and clean horses, but feed them, clean out stalls, maintain riding gear, gear, and do basic first aid. So these are some of the things that a groom has to do in his or her job. They brush the hair of the horse. They don't comb it. They brush it because there's so much of it there. So they use a brush there. They clean them as well. Maybe they use horse shampoo. Of course, they have to make sure the horses are fed. We use feed when we talk about animals. Have you fed the cat yet, for example? And of course, stalls is where they live. And of course, you need to maintain the riding gear. Don't add an S to this. This is like equipment. It's a non-count noun. So we've got riding gear like the saddle, the reins, things like that. And then they need to do basic first aid. If the horse cuts itself or maybe sprains its ankle or something, you need to know what to do.
A couple of these words we use in different places, like a stall. We talk about food stalls in the night market in Taiwan. Those are places where someone has set up to sell, little items, maybe some barbecued meat or something. Those are food stalls. Riding gear, you'll hear people talk about their sports gear. Get your sports gear. And as Tom said, it is non-count. Be careful with that one, guys. So there are lots of things that a horse groom is responsible for, actually. This job involves in-depth or very intense knowledge, a depth of knowledge of a horse, and can be very physically demanding. If something's demanding, it requires a lot of effort from you, whether it's mental effort or physical effort. Some people have very demanding jobs, so it's very stressful. Well, this job requires a lot of physical effort, so it's physically demanding. It offers further career opportunities. Once you've learned all those things about the horse, you could go on to become a stable manager or a breeder, meaning you help produce new horses, or maybe you could become a veterinary assistant or work with a vet, which is fun. Those are possibilities, and for some people who love horses, these are all great ideas.
Yep, a veterinarian is an animal doctor, and yes, you could become a veterinary assistant. Okay, that brings us to the midway point in our lesson for today. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，派老师回来了。今天讲解的是11月份 Unit6 Horses and Humans Past and Present 第二天的课程。我们一起来看看第二天的学习重点吧。请看第一段的第一句 Being such loyal helpers of humans 这个句子，最后面有个名词组 extensive care。好，什么是 extensive care 呢？就是这些马匹需要人去照顾它们，而且呢是范围很广泛的，就是有各式各样的照护。接下来请看第二个句子 Such labor-intensive maintenance has given rise to a number of horse-related occupations. 好，这个句子有几个重点。首先是我们看到 labor-intensive 这个形容词是表示劳力密集，很重要，请记得。后面 maintenance 表示车子的保养。那当然，如果呢是在讲人的话，那就是照顾生命，照顾小孩子 maintenance。好，我们请看第二段。好，我们知道说，平常马夫是在负责照顾马匹的。接下来看到第二个句子，请同学注意到这个句子最后面有一个Basic first aid. First aid 就是急救，那 basic first aid 就是基本的急救。马夫呢也必须要做这件事情，要做基本的急救。接下来我们看第三个句子，有一个形容词叫 demanding， 而且前面有一个副词 physically demanding。好，马夫这个工作可不简单呢，要非常了解马。而且体力上其实很耗体力 physically demanding 这个工作很辛苦，而且呢是在体能上很辛苦。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about the wonderful horse. And some of the occupations that could possibly be something you'd be interested in, taking care of a horse. There's the groom. We know that the groom does the majority of the work for a horse and just taking care of it. They feed the horse. They make sure that their mane is groomed. They'll brush the horse's hair or the mane. We actually say brush the mane. You could be a farrier and take care of his hoofs or his hoof. Sometimes the horse shoe has to be replaced, and so you might be someone who takes care of that. Or maybe you become a trainer one day. Maybe you're really good with horses, and you can help them run faster or perform better in some sort of competition. That's a trainer.
Right, and we did talk about what a groom does. They maintain the riding gear. And I did have a question.
Yeah.
I've heard the word bridle before when talking about horses. What exactly is a bridle?
The bridle goes in their mouth, and then the reins are connected to that, and that's what you use to giddy up, horse, get him to go.
Okay, so the reins, the bridle, the saddle, the stirrups, maybe you might have spurs. Those are all part of the gear that the groom has to be responsible for. And these, of course, jobs can be quite demanding. They can be hard to do. If you like a challenge, this might be up your alley. And another key horse care job is farrier, which we mentioned before. This is a word that is not used very often. I did look this up. It is based on a French word which means iron. So that might help you. If you've studied chemistry before, you know the sign for iron is Fe, which is from Latin. So farrier means having to do with iron. And the horseshoes, they're made out of iron. They take care of the horse's feet. That's what farriers look after. So it's vital that they have a complete understanding of horse anatomy, in addition to skill in crafting horseshoes. So it's vital that if something's vital, that means it's very important. If you don't have this understanding of horse anatomy, then you'll be terrible at this job and the horse might actually die in your care. So it's vital to have a lot of knowledge of horse anatomy. Anatomy, of course, is the study of the body, the bones, the muscles, and stuff like that.
Well, they actually nailed those horseshoes into the horse's hoof. So you have to know what you're doing or you're really going to hurt the horse. I wanted to mention, you asked me about bridle. The bridle is actually everything in combination. The part in the mouth is the bit. To bridle your temper means to control your temper. So bridle actually means to control. So if you put a bridle on a horse, it allows you to control the horse's movement. Now, getting back to the farrier, these horses, as we've mentioned, are really heavy. If a horse actually falls onto a rider, it can sometimes kill someone, and at the very least, it can break a bone. And if they fall on your head, you're gone. You're a goner. So the horses are heavy and their weight can cause problems that lead to pain and lameness. Lameness meaning something is wrong with someone's foot. It could be an animal or a person, but they can't walk normally because there's some sort of pain happening in their foot or leg. So a farrier learns to prevent and treat these issues through techniques like making specialized shoes, those are the horseshoes, right? Or trimming horses' hooves to relieve pressure. If you trim something, you just cut something just a little bit. You might go into a beauty salon and say, oh, I'd like a trim. It's cutting a little bit less off your hair than a haircut. If you cut your hair, you might cut off several centimeters. But if you get a trim, it's just a tiny bit. So they sometimes will trim those horses' hooves to relieve pressure on their foot. You know, look at their legs. The horse leg is not very thick towards the calf part, right? Mm-hmm. So I always think, how do they hold up their backs because they have so many muscles? But they're amazing animals.
Indeed, and you need to know how to take care of all these things, and you need to trim their hooves to relieve the pressure there. And as I was going to say, there are lots of things you can trim, like your hair or your fingernails.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, you can trim horses' hooves.
Or hooves.
Or hooves. I guess you can say it both ways. And here in the next paragraph, it says, of course, horses still do a variety of tasks, and this is where a horse trainer comes in. So we like horses. We've talked about having them as pets or to have them as show horses, where you just show them off. You don't really do anything with them, but still they can do some kinds of jobs. They can perform lots of tasks. And then you're going to need a trainer. This is where a trainer comes in. This is where you need to hire a trainer so that the horse can do those tasks properly.
So you've got equestrian sports. Those are the more expensive, rich-like hobbies that you see on TV sometimes. Show jumping. Rodeo riding is for the cowboys, right? The cowboys and the cowgirls. You don't have to have a lot of money for that. However, they also train horses and riders for police work or other jobs. If you go to New York City, they've got police that ride horses in Central Park. It just works out better for them. They're able to actually get across the park faster if they're on horseback. So that could be a possibility for someone who likes police work and horses. When trainers work with inexperienced or abused horses that have been mistreated, there is a risk of being kicked, and they will kick you, or bitten even, which is kind of scary. So they must have patience and awareness. If any animal has been mistreated, when you first get them, they won't trust you, and they'll react badly to you at first. You need to just be patient and keep loving them so they know that they're working with a different kind of human being.
Is it true that if you walk behind a horse, they will kick you?
No.
Okay.
Not necessarily. You have to do something first.
They might, but
or it could be a mean horse.
Yeah, I've always been told that you're supposed to stay away from the back of horses because they might kick you, and they've got powerful rear legs.
Oh, it hurts. Yeah,
they could send you flying about 20 feet through the air, and they could crack your skull, I suppose, if they hit you there. But again, we've got these trainers who have these special jobs to train those horses for equestrian sports or for police work. And, of course, they might have these abused horses, so, of course, the horses may kick them or bite them. So, of course, a trainer has to have patience and awareness, and they need to be prepared in case they run across a horse like that. Now, here in the next paragraph, it says, though horses began as hunted and exploited animals, today we recognize their immense value to human society. So, yes, we talked about the history of horses, that they were hunted many thousands of years ago, and they were hunted because horse meat was high in protein and other nutrients and stuff like that, but eventually they were domesticated in Central Asia, so we've been using horses to help us out, and I guess you could say they've been exploited. If somebody's exploited, they are used, usually in a bad way. So sometimes we talk about laborers from overseas being exploited by companies who make them work, 18-hour days and stuff like that, and they never get any holiday time, so they are exploited.
But today, we honestly recognize their immense value to human society. Immense means great. There's a lot of value to a horse. So extremely large, great, especially in scale or degree. I have an immense amount of work to do when I go home this evening.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the next time you meet a horse, though, you might find yourself in awe of not just its beauty, but also its amazing history. We hope you learned a little bit more about horses. And if you didn't know anything before, it's kind of fun to learn more about the wonderful animals on this planet. We've got a lot of them.
Horses are amazing animals, but I still think the equestrian sports, show jumping, I think they are dumb. But
They're
that's
silly,
my opinion. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. It's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
我们看到第三段第一个句子，好 ，Another key horse care job is Farrier。接下来介绍的职业是蹄铁匠。蹄铁匠在职业上有哪一些条件要求呢？首先，他们其实要非常的了解马的生理结构，请看到 anatomy 这个字就是生理结构。那这句话的意思是说，蹄铁匠照顾马的脚，所以除了制作马蹄铁的技能，完整了解马的生理构造，对他们来说至关重要。我要请同学也特别把这个句子最后面的 crafting horseshoes 画起来。这里我们不用 making， 而是用 crafting， 其实呢也是制作的意思。好，接下来请同学看到第3段的第3个句子。Farriers learn to prevent and treat 这边，那请同学特别注意到，其实这些马蹄铁匠，他们还要帮马匹呢修他们的什么蹄？为什么呢 ？To relieve pressure， 要疏解他们的压力。动词我们用 relieve，R-E-L-E-V-E， 就是让一些疼痛压力变得比较减缓。我们用这个动词 relieve。好，接着请同学看到第4段的第一句，第4段第一句后半段 ，And this is where a horse trainer comes in。我们常看到这个句型 ，This is where blah 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 who and who comes in。这句话我们可以理解成，这就是驯马师可以派上用场的地方。好，再来，我们请同学继续往下看，看到第5段。第5段的第一个句子 ，The horses began as hunted and exploited animals。好，这里的 exploited animals， 我们用了动词变成过去分词，用过去分词来当形容词修饰这些动物。到底 exploit 是什么意思呢？基本上我们可以把它理解成说，就是我们对一些人的工作要求特别的高，让他们长时间工作，给的薪资却很低 ，overworking and underpaid。Okay, they are overworked but underpaid。好，这个中文就叫做剥削压榨。那比方说 Illegal immigrants are at particular risk of being exploited in the workplace。老师再说一次我们知道说职场上，如果你没有合法的身份，其实很容易被雇主剥削的。Illegal immigrants are at particular risk of being exploited in the workplace。非法的这些移民如果去当移工的话，特别容易在职场上被剥削。好，接下来请看到第2个句子 The next time you meet a horse, you might find yourself in awe of, not just its beauty。 请同学把 find yourself in awe of 画起来。我们知道这个 find 它其实后面加了受词以后，还可以再加受词补语。In awe of 就是受词补语。你会发现自己相当的敬重他们，不只是因为马的英姿，最主要是他们的历史也相当的有趣，相当的令人印象深刻。以上就是我们第2天的中文讲解，谢谢大家。
That's it for today's lesson, everybody. Hopefully, we've given you a new appreciation for horses. I know I have a new appreciation for horses. And hopefully we can talk about horses again in the near future. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.